Good afternoon, and welcome to our show, Cries of Freedom.
We hope this show becomes the perfect way for you to celebrate your Independence Day.
Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness are things we're all blessed with.
Our founding fathers fought to ensure that each one of us enjoyed these rights.
Today, we're going to take you on a historical journey.
But it's really the journey each one of us takes every day.
Yes, it's the journey to live life the way you and I imagine.
It's the dream of living your life free of fear.
It's the desire that every person has had to exercise those God-given rights from the beginning.
It's the baby struggling to take its first breath of air.
It's the little child learning how to walk.
It's the young man mustering up the courage to pursue his dreams.
It's the young woman deciding she's going to make a difference in the world.
It's the father struggling to provide for his family.
It's the mother raising her family safe from the dangers of the world.
It's the old man looking at his life and beholding the wonder of it all.
This journey we depict is the story of all of us struggling to live free and without fear.
Fighting to live the lives we have all dreamed of.
So sit back and imagine yourself living the life you've always dreamed of.
Hear people crying out from history and stirring feelings in your hearts today.
Hear these brave men and women who conquered near impossible odds to find their own cry for freedom.
Let their stories fill you with hope and resolution.
Your story may not be so different, and it's just as important.
Listen as these intrepid freedom fighters, heroes, martyrs, pilgrims, people like you and I, and to this young family as they celebrate their life.
Could those patriots be you?
Yes, I believe they could be.
What is America to me? A name? A map?
Like I see.
A certain word, it's liberty.
That is America to me. House in the plot, earth, the street, the grocer and the butcher, or the people that I meet, the children, the playground, all races and religions, that's America to me.
The place I work in, the worker at my side, the little town or city where my people lived and died, the howdy and the handshake, the air and feeling free, and the right to speak my mind out, that's America to me.
Whenever freedom is threatened, it means much more to
The right to raise our children and live as we believe.
no defend her.
Before she disappears, preserve the dream that has survived
For over 200 years.
the house we live in, the good things everywhere, a land
Of wealth and beauty,
with enough for all to share, a nation blessed by heaven, a land of liberty,
and a freedom-loving people. That's America to me.
The spirit of freedom and liberty lies in the hearts of all nations. A spirit that declares that all people should be free of tyranny and oppression. A spirit required by all men to know and understand their natural God-given rights. From the beginning of time and throughout history, men and women have cried out and fought to champion the cause of freedom. the individual worth of man, and the protection of their rights. The incredible, miraculous beginning of America is a story of conflict, struggle, passion, and the desire of a people wanting to be free.
America, we are thy people, and we shall keep thee free. For in our veins there flows the blood of Washington and Lee. No foreign flag upon thy sod
shall we allow to stand. No iron shackles from abroad shall touch thy foot or hand. They mock thy army, say 'tis small, thy navy too they scorn. Have they forgot the laurels won since freedom here was born? They say thy untrained citizens will never soldiers be. Have they forgot those valiant men who fought in '63? America, thy sons are true, and if thou wilt but call, 10 million men will give to thee their homes, their lives, their all. For thou to stand for what is right, for freedom of the seas. God grant old glory may always float, forever in the breeze.
Freedom is a God-given gift promising life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness for every person. But freedom is not easy to come by, and it is never free. It usually comes with a price, and that price can be that of one's own life. In the early 1400s, St. Joan of Arc, heroine of France, cried out as she tried to champion the cause of freedom. And boldly, at age 17, she led the French army. When Joan was just 13, she heard a voice calling her to deliver France from England, and boldly and heroically convinced the King of France to make her the military leader of their armies. Now let's journey back in history and meet this young heroine.
Joan, you shall put on masculine clothes, for you are she who has been chosen by the King of Heaven to restore the kingdom of France and to aid and protect King Charles, who has been driven from his domain. You will accomplish miraculous things.
I stood in awe. I knew that what I had heard was real, but I didn't even know how to ride a horse, let alone lead an army into battle. With great determination, I departed from my home forever. After much scrutiny and rigorous examination by the king, I was finally granted my desire to lead the French army into battle.
Know, all men, that the most illustrious Charles, King of France, by the grace of God, is pleased to bestow upon his well-beloved servant, Joan of Arc, the title, emoluments, and authorities of Captain-in-Chief of the armies of France.
Now that I had the blessings of God and of knighthood, I felt confident, energetic, and I seemed to have a great endurance for fatigue. Sometimes, when all seemed lost, and my men were exhausted and discouraged, I went off to pray. I'm just a girl, barely old enough to leave my family, yet I know you've chosen me. I must be brave, yet I must confess that I am so afraid, and my men are losing faith. Lord, give me strength. Lord, give me courage as this young girl in armor fights against the foe. Lord, please have mercy. Lord, give me power. Renew my conviction. Help my confidence grow.
Men, I am tired and discouraged, wondering what we're fighting for. Lord, please have mercy. Lord, give us power. Renew our conviction. Help our confidence grow.
Men, take courage. God is with us as we fight this bloody war. See our banner waving o'er us, showing what we're fighting for.
For our homes, for our families,
For God and liberty. Lead us onward into battle. All our faith we place in thee. My sacred banner filled my men with confidence, and they were renewed to achieve the impossible. The victory was close at hand, and my men followed me with my indomitable courage as we charged over the walls of our enemies. The English, thinking they were safe, found themselves under attack both in front and in back. As now into battle we triumphantly go. Men, follow me!
But despite the attack, on May 26, 1430, Joan was captured. She was imprisoned and kept in heavy chains for months. She was accused of witchcraft and of following the devil after miraculously surviving an arrow wound. Her freedom would be granted only upon her denial of the voices. Nothing would change her mind, and she stood by her testimony. The fires were ignited around the stake, and they gave her one more time to recant.
Every man gives his life for what he believes. Every woman gives her life for what she believes. Some people believe in little or nothing, and yet they give their lives to that little or nothing. One life is all we have. We live it as we believe in living it, and then it's gone. But to surrender who you are and live without belief is more terrible than dying.
You hear the people sing the song of free men. It is a music of the people who will not be slaves again. When the beating of your heart echoes the beating of the drums, there is a life about to start when tomorrow comes. Will you join in our crusade? Be strong and stand with me. Beyond the barricade, is there a world you want to see? Then join in the fight that will give you the right to be free. Do you hear the people sing the song of angry men? It is a music of the people who will not be slaves again. When the beating of your heart echoes the beating of the drums, there is a life about to start when tomorrow comes.
And gaze so that our banner may advance. Some will fall and some will live. Will you stand up? Take your chance.
The blood of the martyrs will water the meadows of France. Sing the song of angry men. It is a music of a people who will not be slaves again. When the beating of your heart echoes the beating of the drums, there is a life about to start tomorrow. Who's with us?
We hear the cries of angry men from all around the world. This time, the cries are coming from the Dutch in the 1500s when they were under attack by the Spaniards. These poor Dutch people suffered many atrocities by the hands of the Spaniards. They had been taxed unjustly. Their property had been seized, and many had been thrown into prison. And not only that, thousands had been burned at the stake for simply reading their Bible. Peter van der Werf was the burgomaster, and he did everything in his power to rescue the Dutch people and their land from the cruel bonds of oppression. But the people were starving, and thousands had already died. The few remaining were surviving on cats, rats, and dogs. Babies were dying in their mother's arms, disease was rampant, and dead bodies were everywhere. And despite their longings for freedom, some of the men began to beg the burgomaster to give up.
Would you have me surrender? I have taken an oath to hold this city. May God give me strength to keep it. Here, take my sword, plunge it into my body, divide my flesh to appease your hunger if you will. But God help me, I will never surrender. You call us rat-eaters. We are. But so long as you hear a dog bark within these halls, you will know that the city holds out. We will eat our left arms and fight with our right. And when we have strength no longer, we will set fire to the city and perish in the flames, rather than give up our liberties. David walked into the valley with a stone clutched in his hand. He was only a boy, but he knew someone must take a stand. There will always be a valley, always mountains one must scale. There will always be perilous waters which someone must sail.
Into valleys, into waters, into jungles, into hell. Let us ride home again with the story to tell. Into darkness, into danger, into storms that rip the night. Don't give in, don't give up, but give thanks for the glorious fight.
You can tremble, you can fear it, but keep your fighting spirit alive. Boys,
Let the shiver of it sting you.
fling into battle.
Your feet, boys.
Never hold back your step for a moment. Never doubt that your courage will grow. Hold your head even higher, and into the fire we go. If we don't stand for something, we will fall for anything. Ha! Are there mountains that surround us? Are there walls that block the way? Knock them down, strip them back, boys, and forward and into the fray. Into terror, into valor, charge ahead, no, never turn. Yes, it's into the fire we fly, and the devil will burn. Someone has to be rally, rushing, you have to rally and win, boys. When the world is saying not to, that's when you know you've got to march on, boys. Never hold back your step for a moment. Never doubt that your courage will grow. Hold your head even higher, and into the fire we go.
Took your fears away, pull as tight as a wire. Let the fever spike, let the force of it rock you.
Yeah.
We will have our day sailing into the fire.
Yeah. It is better to die free men than to live in a world of tyranny. Someone has to rally, let's rally and win, boys. That's when you know you've got to march on, boys. Never hold back your step for a moment. Never. Look alive or your courage will grow. Yes, it's higher and higher, and into the fire we go. Into fire, onward,
At the turn of the 16th century, we hear another cry for freedom. We take you to a region called Scrooby, England. In those days, everyone, rich or poor, had to belong to the Church of England. Rejecting the doctrines of the Church of England was a crime punishable by prison or even death. The separatists sold their homes and most of their possessions only to be caught, robbed of the few things they had left, and thrown into dungeons or forced to live on the streets. These compassionate, freedom-loving people did all they could to keep their dreams of the promised land alive. They just wanted a different kind of life, a place where their children would be cherished, a place they could call their own.
Stop! You've no right to be doing this to us.
What were you thinking? We know what we saw. The king orders you back. You've broken his law.
We've done nothing wrong. Please just let us be. We're hungry, we're suffering. Oh, can't you see?
You're troublemakers. You have no rights.
Where is your sympathy?
No more secretive nights.
Gold fills your coffers and we don't have a dime. We're whipped, we're beggars, forced into crime.
You shall go to see. The king has ordered me. God is on his side. You have nowhere to hide. The king's law is just. In him I put my trust.
Our
liberty
is what we need. Please let us go.
Stop this madness. The king says no.
little blinder. This is what I pray, if I had my way.
I have no right to be doing this to us.
We can't let them break us. It's merry old England for the rich, but we, the poor and screwy, have only but a scrap to eat.
Where will we stand? So shall we meet? Have rats on our necks to beg.
It's hard for us to understand. Please God, take us by the hand and lead us to a place of our people are hung for their beliefs. Bibles are burned and screwed. We've suffered long without relief.
Endure such moral decay. Our children are taunted and tempted to stray.
It's hard for us to understand. Please God, take us by the hand and lead us to a place where we can be free. A place of our own, things would be different. Danger wouldn't come from a sky of blue. Angels would appear, children would be cherished. Hope would never perish, faith would not betray. If I had my way. No, we can get through this. God is on our side. A place of our own, far from tyranny's hand. Blessed by God's holy grace, is there such a land? We've got to get out, please God help us flee. A new land, a new world where we can be free. Old England for the rich, it's hard for us to understand. Please God, take us by the hand, lead us to a place of our
Finally, in the late summer of 1608, the Scrooby separatists reached Holland. Though the air was charged with energy and excitement, it was not the kind of life they were looking for. The separatists refused to let their children be taught the ways of the liberal Dutch. The expectations for a newfound freedom ignited the fire in their hearts, so they left their homes to board a crowded ship, cross a vast ocean, and sail to the promised land of America.
Far, we've been traveling far, without a home, but not without a star. Free, only want
Hang on
to a tree.
On the boats and on the trains, we're coming to America. Never looking back again. We're coming to America.
Now, the first half of the voyage was rather smooth, but then they were faced with bad storms, sickness, and even death set in. And it became doubtful that they would even make it to America. And when they finally landed, they had nothing but their faith to sustain them.
Our fathers, God, to the author of liberty, to thee we sing. Long may our lives be blessed with freedom's holy light. Protect us by thy might, praise God our
The colonists were beginning to feel comfortable in their new world, but they were still under the rule of the King of England, and he was making their lives miserable. They were ordered to fight England's wars and pay for them with heavy taxes and unjust laws. These demands became so unbearable and intolerable that the colonists began to rebel against the king. Now let's look in as the colonists mock the King of England.
Hear ye, hear ye, hear ye. Presenting the colonists and their mocking of the King of England.
Your robe, your majesty. Your crap, your majesty.
Boo! 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 King of muck, king of filth, king of slime, king of putrescence. Boo! Boo! Boo!
The king! The king! Oh, what does the king have on his mind tonight?
It's yes, your majesty.
Of course, your majesty.
Whatever you like, your majesty.
But what about us, your majesty?
You take away our rights, our freedoms.
Why, your laws have become unbearable. And you have denial and refusal manner, your majesty. You harass us.
You transport us beyond seas to be tried for pretended offenses. Protect your own soldiers from punishment.
Cut off our trade and deny us a trial by jury.
Why all these usurpations, your majesty?
The Step Act.
The Sugar Act! The intolerable acts! What are you thinking, your majesty?
You wage war against us. You are cruel, barbaric.
You are guilty of tyranny! Your majesty!
Tyranny? Tyranny, you say? Oh, the colonists. What do the colonists have on their mind tonight? Always complaining about something, aren't you? What is it you want this time? Can't you understand that I make all the decisions for you? For I am the king. And you will say, yes, your majesty, to everything I tell you.
It's no, your majesty! It's war, your majesty!
A revolution, your majesty.
Yes, your majesty! The answer is war!
Then war it shall be.
The air was supercharged with the buzz and fever of revolution. People could smell it in the air. They could feel it in their bones. It was Patrick Henry who ignited that spark as he spoke these famous words to the Virginia representatives.
Gentlemen may cry, peace, peace. But there is no peace. The war is actually begun. The next gale that sweeps from the north will bring to our ears the clash of resounding arms. Our brethren are already in the field. Why stand we here idle? What is it that gentlemen wish? What would they have? Is life so dear and peace so sweet as to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery? Forbid it, Almighty God. I know not what course others may take, but as for me, give me liberty or give me death.
The colonists were now ready for war. A few brave men warned the Minutemen of Lexington and Concord that the British were coming.
The British are coming! The British are coming! Whoa! Come on!
Children, come up to the stage. Come with these ladies. Come learn about Paul Revere. All right. Can you guys make your best horse neighing sound? That's good. That's good. Can you do the hoofbeats of a horse? Good. Okay. Now just listen, and when everybody else starts doing it, you can do it too. Listen, my children, and you shall hear of the midnight ride of Paul Revere. On the 18th of April in 75, hardly a man is now alive who remembers that famous day and year. He said to his friend, if the British march by land or by sea from the town tonight, hang a lantern aloft in the belfry arch of the North Church Tower as a signal light. 1, if by land, and 2, if by sea, and I on the opposite shore will be, ready to ride and sound the alarm to every Middlesex village and farm, for the country folk to be up and to arm. The fate of the nation was riding that night, and the spark struck out by that steed in his flight. Now, you know the rest of the story from the books you have read, how the British regulars fired and fled. Now this story will be echoed forevermore from each housetop and through each open door, and the people will awaken to listen, to hear of the midnight ride of Paul Revere. Listen, can you hear the hoofbeats echoing across the land? Can you hear the whinnying of his horse? Are you ready to ride with Paul Revere?
Ride
By July 1776, the colonists were still under the rule of a king. There was a lot at stake here, for declaring independence was a very serious matter. Under English law, if we opposed the king, we would be treated as traitors. If we joined the rebels, we risked not only our own lives, but the lives of our families. The colonies sent representatives to the Continental Congress to discuss independence from Great Britain. The colonies needed to be unanimous in their decision to adopt the resolution to declare independence. Please understand, these were very wise men, all of great character. And we knew all that we stood to lose. And knowing all this, we mutually pledged to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. We then chose to declare independence.
Sink or swim, live or die, survive or perish, I pledge my hand and heart to this vote. There's a divinity that shapes our ends. Why then should we defer the declaration? We may not live to the time when this declaration shall be made good, but this declaration will stand. It may cost treasure, and it may cost blood, but it will stand, and it will richly compensate for both.
These words will go forth to the world when our bones are dust. To the slave in bondage, they will speak hope. To the mechanic in the workshop, freedom. That parchment will speak to kings in language sad and terrible as the trump of the archangel. You have trampled on the rights of mankind long enough. At last, the voice of human woe has pierced the ear of God and called his judgment down.
Sign, if the next moment the gibbet's rope is around your neck.
Sign, if the next moment the hall rings with the echo of the falling axe.
Sign by all your hopes in life or death, as husbands, fathers, as men with our names to the parchment, or be accursed forever.
Sign, not only for yourselves, but for all ages. For that parchment will be the textbook of freedom, the Bible of the rights of man forever.
Father, the old world is baptized in blood. It is drenched in the blood of millions who have been executed in slow and grinding oppression. Yes, were my soul trembling on the wings of eternity, were this hand freezing to death, were my voice choking with the last struggle, I would still, with the last gasp of my voice, beg you to sign this declaration and implore you to remember this truth, that God has decreed that America is to be free from oppression.
Come, gentlemen. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, to derive their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government. Gentlemen, today we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. This is the moment we have waited for. This is the moment. This is the day when I send all my doubts and demons on their way. Every endeavor I have made ever is coming into play, is here and now today.
This is the moment, this is the time when the momentum and the moment are in rhyme. Give me this moment, this precious chance. I'll gather up my past and make some sense at last. This is the moment when all we've done, all of the dreaming, scheming, and screaming become one.
This is the day. See us sparkle and shine when all I've lived for becomes mine. For all these years we faced the world alone, and now the time has come to prove to them we've made it on our own. This is the moment, our final test.
Destiny beckoned, I never reckoned second best.
I won't look down,
I must not fall. This is the moment, the sweetest moment of them all.
this is the moment we face the odds. This day or never, we'll sit forever with our God. When we look back, we will always recall moment for moment. This is the moment, the sweetest moment of them
America was now a new nation. But as we've learned, freedom is never free. On the very day the Declaration was signed, England's own General Howe sailed into New York Harbor with the largest armada of ships ever assembled. This was going to be a fight to the bitter end. We needed General George Washington to lead us to victory. But after losing 5 important battles in New York and being chased all over New Jersey, Washington's men were a pathetic sight when he positioned them on the west side of the Delaware. The brutal Hessian mercenaries kept an eye on them from Trenton. The turning point of the war was found in the heart of General Washington himself when he read Tom Paine's crisis letter, number 1.
These are the times that try men's souls. The sun soldier and the sunshine patriot will, in this crisis, shrink from the service of their country. But he who stands by it now deserves the love and thanks of men and women. Tyranny, like hell, is not easily conquered.
In our day, we need more good heroes. Someone to lead us through our trials, to direct us, to guide us. Someone like George Washington.
Come on, everybody. We're singing about the founder of our country, our first general, our first president. George Washington, we love so much. He had hope in ourselves and all of us. Put your hands together and clap along. You know who we're talking about. George Washington.
George Washington. His love of country and sense of duty were matched by no man. He was a great man of war, and every soldier looked up to him with great trust. He had absolute courage and determination in every good cause. He was the most respected man in America, and should be today.
Yes. Woohoo, General! By December 1776, the Continental Army had lost nearly every major battle and was on the verge of defeat, and the Hessians were coming on strong. Washington's men were starving, freezing, had rags on their feet and not many weapons. George made his next move and did what all great leaders do. He attacked the enemy!
Everybody row! 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 Come on, let's go! Through the ice and snow. It's getting harder to row. Don't you know it's a real tough go? Oh no, oh no.
Settle down, settle down. I know God's on our side, so pray with me tonight. Oh, dear God, what should we do? We need to save our country. We need help from you. Oh, please help us through this terrible night. Can I ask for anything more?
We're hungry! We're cold! This is war!
Build a barricade! One! Fire two! Fire three! Let's get those headshots!
Even though the war was won, England was still breathing down the necks of America and would not let go. America was once again at war, the War of 1812. To break the will of the American people, England bombarded Fort McHenry. However, Americans still stood strong and were willing to once again die for their freedom. Both sides had captured prisoners. Francis Scott Key was appointed to negotiate the release of the prisoners.
Men, I have news for you tonight. You are free.
Not so fast, Mr. Key. You know too much and plans have changed. We attack Fort McHenry tonight. Fort McHenry must either lay down the colors or a flag, or we will destroy the fort.
You can't shell that fort. You don't have the justification for this war.
We need no justification for this war. We have told your people that if they lower that flag and surrender the fort, the shelling will stop immediately. Fort McHenry will then be under British rule. Time for tea.
Fort McHenry was within striking distance of the British ships.
Mr. Key, how many ships do you see?
I count 16.
Where is the flag?
Is the flag still flying over the rampart?
Every time the bombs would explode near the flag, Francis Scott Key could see the flag illuminated in the red glare of that bomb.
Please, God, keep that flag flying.
During the bombardment, the flag had suffered many direct hits, but it never fell. While on the ship that morning, Francis Scott Key penned these words.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Then conquer we must, when our cause it is just, and this be our motto, in God is our trust, and the star-spangled banner in triumph shall wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
The victory of that day renewed the Americans' faith that God would be their protector through any peril. And our flag still flies triumphantly today.
Distant drummer, I hear the trumpets call. I hear the tramp of a bandsman marching, stirring my heart and soul. I hear the stars that strike forever. I hear the cymbals cry. Taking away the revelry, I thrill to my country's flag. I love the glory in the sea, the hopes of all men who would be free. I love the glory.
The cries of freedom continued throughout this land for nearly 100 years after America had declared that all men are created equal. The Native Americans were mistreated. The black people struggled under the bonds of slavery. Their cries were expressed through their song and prayers. And after a brutal civil war and several amendments to the Constitution, they would be set free from oppression. The rights of all men were acknowledged in Abraham Lincoln's second inaugural address, when he said, "With malice towards none, with charity toward all, let us strive on for lasting peace." And America's message spread fast throughout the world. The downtrodden people from every country came by the thousands seeking a better life. It was the hope of all men to live together as a family, to build a legacy of opportunity, to own a piece of land, a home, and maybe even a thriving business. They just wanted a better life. And when they saw the Statue of Liberty, they knew they had come to the right place. For there she stood with her crown of 7 spikes, shining forth and inviting the 7 continents and 7 seas of the world to come to the land of the free. Clutched in her arm were the tables of law, inscripted with the date 1776, signifying the Declaration of Independence, which formed the first nation of a truly free people. At her feet was the broken chain of tyranny that had dominated the history of the entire world until the birth of America. And in her uplifted arm rose the glowing torch, offering her the light of hope to those living in a darkened world of oppression. Tears streamed down the immigrants' faces, and they fell on bended knees, for they knew they had found their home at last.
As the storm clouds gather far across the sea, let us pledge allegiance to a land that's free. Let us all be grateful for a land so fair as we raise our voices in a solemn prayer. The audience, please join us in song. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and
America is truly our home sweet home. But the fabric life becomes frayed and torn during war times. We long for the day when our troops will come home. We cherish those beloved sons and daughters of America who continue to fight for the cause of freedom. May I quote an American soldier, "I am a guardian of freedom and the American way of life. Let us all become guardians of this freedom, to uphold that which is most dear to us, God, family, and country." Ladies and gentlemen, these young people here, handsome young men, beautiful young ladies, but they have worked so hard to prepare for this program. And every night when they have rehearsal, they start with prayer. And their prayer is that they would be able to share the spirit of freedom and liberty with you all. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is only the beginning of America's story. This sacred document, the Declaration of Independence, is the foundation of a good government. This sacred document, the Constitution of the United States, is still the supreme law of this land and the greatest document ever written. May we uphold both documents forever, even to the laying down of our lives. Freedom and independence will go forth boldly to American hearts like the voice of God. And our work will not be done until all men are equally privileged with the blessings of liberty. It will cost blood and it'll cost treasure. But we will conquer all foes and give glory to our God. We will never accept defeat, and we must never quit. United we stand. Divided, and we will fall. And may God continue to bless these United States of America.
traveled far. Now you are home at last. Rest for a while now. All your work is done. Rest here in my waiting arms. Now that your grace is
Make them hear you. Make them hear you.
Tell them in our struggles we were not the only ones.
Make them hear you. Make them hear you.
And say to those who blame us for the way we chose to fight, that sometimes there are battles which are more than black or white.
I would not put down my sword when justice was my right.
Make them hear you. Go out and tell our story. Let it echo far and wide. Make them hear you. Make them hear you. Wherever freedom's threatening you, the power to turn the tide. Make them hear you. Make them hear you. Your sword is reasserting o'er the power of the pen.
Every child who raised his voice and lend my brother's hand.
Will justice be demanded by 10 million righteous men? Make them hear you.